Hello, everyone. Juxtaposition here. Hope you have one of these Juxtaposition 1 coffee mugs. These handsome mugs can be yours. Follow the link below to purchase one of these. And Brutal Truth today. This is the Brutal Truth channel. And today's title for the content created is NATO's Gay Pride COINTELPRO Army. That's the brutal truth of today. NATO's Gay Pride COINTELPRO Army. Now, you know, by being a paid member of my channel, what COINTELPRO means counterintelligence. Counterintelligence. And in our Mockingbird media, which is an intelligence operation, infiltrating everything. Books, published books, magazines, newspapers, periodicals of all types, radio, and television, both commercial advert television and public television, grant-driven, by the same people who pay the advertising fees. They also pay grants. So there's not even a millimeter's worth of difference between PBS and CBS. In other words, they're the same. Everything's the same. So his father, he was the voice of American public radio. He's CIA. CIA. Dick Carlson, CIA. That would make his son, Tucker Carlson, he's CIA too, especially since he went to high school in Geneva, Switzerland, an all-boys school. So Tucker is 100% COINTELPRO, counterintelligence, to be ignored. Anyway, today we're going to focus on the gay pride. There are literally tens of thousands of gay people in NATO forces in every different unit, division of the military, banking, media, and politics. And I'm just going to give you a tiny smidgen of names that hopefully you will recognize, who should be ignored and should be shamed for being hypocrites and fooling you into thinking that they're intelligent people with a message. Every one of these people may be intelligent, but they are most definitely dishonest. They work for Geneva Global Governance. 100% of these people work for Geneva Global Governance. Some of them may not even understand that they do. But let's just start out with the fact that gays have been involved with counterintelligence since the dawning of man. It goes back to the beginning. Thousands of years, so nothing new here. Roy Cohen, he lived 1927 to 1986. He was Donald Trump's attorney. Donald Trump's first attorney was a Jewish gay man by the name of Roy Cohen. You may remember he worked as an assistant district attorney in New York in the prosecution of the Rosenbergs, having to do with, I believe, the kidnapping of the Lindenberg child. Anyway, that resulted in the death penalty, and it was Roy Cohen who contributed to the conviction of the Rosenbergs. Later went on to represent Donald Trump. As far as I know, Donald Trump's not gay, but he does have gay lawyers. Okay? So Rosie O'Donnell, you might have heard of, very out being bull dyke lesbian type, and she's an anti-Trump person, and she's Jewish, so she's sort of the partner of Roy Cohen. Roy Cohen is pro-Trump, and Rosie O'Donnell is anti-Trump, and together they combine for gay pride. They're on both sides of every issue. Gay pride is on both issues. The gays are just Democrats. They're conservative Republicans. One of the most odious examples of a conservative Republican gay man is, of course, a former Superior Court judge who wears a satanic black robe from time to time, Andrew Napolitano, who appears with other COINTELPRO people like Jeffrey Sachs, PhD from Harvard University, a pompous ass who knows nothing, and he appears with Gerald Calente of the Trends Journal magazine, who should be ignored and deleted from your viewing. All the people who appear on podcasts of COINTELPRO operatives are to be ignored. That would include Joe Rogan, that would include Alex Jones, but I'm going to focus just on the gay people. And the gay people would be Andrew Napolitano, who has multiple sexual assault and rape charges pending. Believe he has entered into settlement agreements with at least two gay men or two men who he harassed in New York City. One in New Jersey, whilst he was a judge, trading favors for a felony arson sentencing for oral sex. Andrew Napolitano, age 76 years old, to be ignored. He has no wife, he has no children, and he has no excuse. All right, Ellen DeGeneres, you might have heard of her. I met her back in 1978. I met Ellen DeGeneres in San Leandro, California, in a comedy club with a grand total of about 8 people in the audience. Ellen DeGeneres, at that time, was unknown what her sexuality was. She's wearing high top Converse tennis shoes. I thought she was a stagehand. I had no idea she was a comedian. She was brilliantly funny, and I give a thumbs up to Ellen DeGeneres. She was only 19 years old, and she was brilliant, and she destroyed the act of Dr. Demento, who could not follow her. Dr. Demento was going to do 90 minutes on stage, but after 20 minutes of Ellen DeGeneres, he might as well just packed his bags and gone home. So I left early. I didn't really care to hear Dr. Demento after his first 10 minutes. He couldn't hold a candle to Ellen DeGeneres, who is associated with being the lesbian girlfriend of Kat, died in a violent car accident, I believe in Louisiana, mysteriously at age 23. Then she was involved with Teresa, related women, Teresa Boyd, lesbian. Then she was involved with Anne Heche, who is ambiguous. Anne Heche, who has children with men. So Anne Heche, I think, was like an actress, lesbian. Then we had a fake relationship with Ellen DeGeneres, resulting in a breakup bender weekend in Fresno County, not far from Dr. Victor Hansen's raisin farm. Anne Heche wanted to take the ranchers up to see God in her spaceship. She said she had a spaceship, and the ABC Disney News said that Ellen DeGeneres was upset that Anne Heche was on ecstasy and on a bender, meaning drunk, and wanting to take the locals to see God in her spaceship. Turns out there's no proof that Anne Heche has a spaceship. There's no proof she was on ecstasy, and there's not a scintilla of proof that she was drunk or drinking alcohol. Just like Paul Pelosi's crash of his Maserati 2 weeks ago, there was no drunk test taken. So when the media says that there's no evidence of alcohol in the crash of Paul Pelosi, just delete that. They didn't do a drug test, so he was probably falling down drunk. Okay. Just like Kyle Shanahan, probably falling down drunk, coach of the San Francisco 49ers. They never performed a drunk test on him, but they'll tell you that there was no evidence of drunkenness. When crashing your car is evidence of drunkenness, okay? When it's a rear end and the car's parked that you crash into, that's evidence of drunkenness. Anyway, after the Anne Heche scenario ended, we had the Alexandra Hedison case. She's the daughter of the actor from Voyage to the Bottom. Remember that science fiction submarine show, Voyage to See What's on the Bottom? Anyway, she was the lesbian girlfriend that took over after Anne Heche. Then she broke up with Ellen DeGeneres and married Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster of Taxi. Jodie Foster of which don't come to mind at the moment. With Anthony, a scary film with him. Uh, Anyway, Alexandra Hedison, I don't know if she is an actress. All these women are actresses, so they could just be pretending to be lesbians. Then Ellen DeGeneres, after having lost her relationship with Kat Perkoff Teresa Boyd, Alexandra Henderson, Anne Heche. She proceeded to have a domestic marriage to Portia de Rossi, another actress model. What else is new? So it really looks like Ellen DeGeneres' lesbian relationships are fake. I think they're as real as Bob Evans's marriages or Elizabeth Taylor's. Elizabeth Taylor had 8 marriages. Zsa Zsa Gabor had 9 marriages. Jennifer O'Neill had 9 marriages. And I'm going to tell you, even though they were allegedly heterosexual, I think 100% of Elizabeth Taylor, Zsa Zsa Gabor, and Jennifer O'Neill, I think all their marriages were fake. And I think 100% of Ellen DeGeneres' marriages or lesbian relationships are fake. That's what I think. So take everything I tell you with a grain of salt. There are such things as fake lesbians, and there are such things as fake gay men also. And there's ambiguity where they go back and forth. Just so you know, I have been to a costume party for Halloween hosted by a lesbian, and I was the only male person at the party. There was about 25 people there, and I was the only man at an all lesbian party. I believe there was one woman there who was definitely not a lesbian, but it's hard to tell, right? They don't really wear, you know, QR codes. The woman who hosted the party was living in a CIA house, last home on a dead end cul-de-sac in Marin County. I could take you to the house. It's still there. I have been by the house recently, and there is an all-wheel drive Audi sedan high performance model parked in the driveway. So I'm assuming CIA operatives live in that house today. And they did when I went to that party. That woman was being appointed by Barack Obama to an LGBTQ advocacy group in Washington, D.C., and she's moving to Georgetown. And this was her last party that she would host before she headed on back to the Obama political gay pride advocacy. All right. So, you know, all political appointed lesbian who was going to receive some benefits and perks. Okay. Um, what else have I got in the way of lesbians? Well, I have Condoleezza Rice. Remember, she was Secretary of State with George Bush. Remember Condoleezza Rice? She's a member of the Hoover Institute. She gets paid. She gets a free house on the Stanford University campus. She's in a lesbian relationship with a domestic roommate situation with a woman by the name of Jean Washington. Jean Washington, they've had a decades long lesbian relationship. All right. Then we have Rachel Madcow. She graduated from Stanford. The legend, if you read Wikipedia, is that Rachel Madcow, also known as Maddow, she's from Castro Valley, California, which is an unincorporated part of Alameda County. And she was outed as a lesbian as a freshman at Stanford. If you believe that, I'll sell you a Golden Gate Bridge. Anyway, Rachel Maddow, who has her own cable show, she's a lesbian advocate, and she came from Stanford, which is 100% military intelligence, making Rachel Madcow 100% Cointelpro. All right. Wanda Sykes, I think she started out as a heterosexual woman. At some point, she outed herself as a lesbian. Wanda Sykes, she's a black comedian. She advocates the Ruth Ellis Center in Detroit, Michigan. Wanda Sykes, that's for homeless lesbians in adolescent lesbians in Michigan. The Ruth Ellis Center will give a home to wayward lesbian girls. Then we have Amanda Birzay. She played Marcy in the movie Married with Children. Married with Children. Remember that zany Fox network show, Married with Children? Amanda Birzay was the woman who lived next door and who would constantly come over and include herself in the shenanigans going on there with Al Bundy. Al Bundy. All right, what else I got here? Let's go into the gay men. Peter Thiel. He's from Stanford University, just like Rachel Madcow is, just like Condoleezza Rice now resides. She must be next door neighbors with Victor Davis Hanson. He has a home in the Stanford University also. Hoover Institute comes with a house and cleaning lady and cash money every month. Peter Thiel has a non-technology degree from Stanford undergraduate. He had for Jeffrey Thomas. He's an Instagram model with over 1 million followers. Jeffrey Thomas crashed a New Year's party on Biscayne Bay at Venezia Island. And it was embarrassing because Peter Thiel had married his husband wife, Matt Danzizen. Matt Danzizen. Matt Danzizen is a financial guy who handled things with Eric Weinstein for Founders Fund. Peter Thiel is gay. Matt Zandinson has to be either a gay wife or a gay husband. And Jeffrey Thomas is now deceased. He was thrown off his balcony of a high-rise apartment 1 mile away from where Matt Danzizen lives and Peter Thiel lives. Matt Danzizen would be the number one suspect in the murder of Jeffrey Thomas, age 35, face planted into the concrete next to his jacuzzi and tossed off the balcony. The media called it a suicide before the police had an opportunity to do any investigation. And the first person I'd call in would be Matt Danzizen as a probable motive and means. He could walk to the crime scene and walk home. Be approximately 2 mile walk to and from. Peter Thiel is also a suspect in the mysterious suicide death by murder of Jeffrey Thomas. Those are the gay boys. Then we have Harvey Milk. You might have heard of him. He was a board of supervisor for San Francisco, along with Dianne Feinstein. And then he was shot in the head and killed, along with George Moscone, allegedly by Dan White. This had the effect of making Dianne Feinstein the mayor of San Francisco, a position she had run for election twice and was defeated twice. She finished third place. But the murder of George Moscone and Harvey Milk catapulted Dianne Feinstein into becoming the mayor of San Francisco in 1978, in November 1978. And then she went on to become a senator from San Francisco, representing the Castro district, which is the gay district of San Francisco. And of course, Dianne Feinstein, a good friend of the gay intelligence operations that reside throughout San Francisco and California. All right, what else I got? Well, I got Barry Diller. He's gay, allegedly, and he's made a lot of. There's a lot of rumors about his abuse of his executive status at all the corporations that he was a CEO or chairman of the board of, and he follows in the path of David Geffen. David Geffen, who is a flaming homosexual in Hollywood in the music industry. If you don't believe me, you could talk to Neil Young about it, polio survivor from Toronto, Canada. He knows David Geffen very well. All right, so what else I got here? Stephen Parent. Stephen Parent's gay. He was 18 years old. He was killed at the front gate of 10050 Cielo Drive. At the gate, he was trying to make a run to escape the property when he was gunned down by two men with AR-15 rifles. And he was 18 years old. He was on his way to a gay date at 12:15 a.m. approximately. It's probably more like 12:20 a.m. And he was shot 5 times with an AR-15. It's an automatic rifle because the bullet wounds are in close proximity, and he was attempting to flee in his parents' Ambassador Rambler sedan, two-door. So there's no way you could shoot a person with a single-action revolver Ronald Reagan pistol and have all the bullets end up more or less in the same location, fatally killing Stephen Parent, age 18. He was off to see David Gerald, Now, don't be confused. There absolutely is no such person as David Gerald. The person I'm referring to is a Jewish man from Chicago, Illinois. His true name is Gerald David Friedman. Gerald David Friedman was known for plagiarizing some science fiction work and changing the name to Trouble with Tribbles at age 23 and selling it to Gene Roddenberry of Star Trek, whereupon Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek adopted the screenplay adaptation of a book that was already published for 15 years. And they made a television episode starring William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy that was entitled Trouble with Tribbles. You may remember the episode. It was quite comical, and it's attributed to David. Told you his name is Gerald David Friedman. Even changed the spelling of Gerald G. You know, like Oliver Stone did. Oliver Silverstein became Oliver Stone, right? They do it all the time. They do it all the They do it all the time. So anyway, David Gerald was 25 years old in August 1969, and he had an 18-year-old Stephen Parent, who's a burglar and who'd been convicted of burglary as a under 18-year-old, who was on probation at the time of his death. And it's just ironic, isn't it, that the murder of Sharon Tate and Abigail Folger occurred or just after the murder of Stephen Parent. He was killed first. And had he been a little bit quicker to get over to David Gerald's home in Van Nuys, San Fernando Valley, he'd be alive. He'd be alive today. But he dragged his feet a little bit back there in the bungalow pool house with William Garrett, who is also gay. He's gay too. That's why Stephen Parent was over there. It was a Friday night. Remember, it was Friday night, and Stephen Parent arrived before midnight, and he left after midnight and was confronted by soldiers at the gate. That's how you know the Manson family was not involved whatsoever with the Sharon Tate murder. So I think that's it. That's my point for today. NATO's Gay Pride COINTELPRO Army. Anderson Cooper, Glenn Greenwald, they all fit into this fabric of COINTELPRO counterintelligence. Do not take advice from COINTELPRO people, whether they're heterosexual, whether they're gay or lesbian, matters not. They're all there to waste your time, and none of them are telling the truth, okay? Counterintelligence means lying. That's what that means. Counterintelligence means the opposite of intelligent information. So if you find yourself listening to podcasts with people like Stu Peters or Tucker Carlson, you need to disengage, let go, turn off the computer, step away from the computer, step away from the television, put down your mobile phone, and do seek counseling. Become a paid member of the anti Poppycock for Poison channel known as Juxtaposition One. Best represented by getting yourself a Juxtaposition One coffee mug. If you do this and you become a paid member, then you have a chance at deprogramming yourself. You've been lied to since birth. You don't have a country. You do not have a flag. You do not have a national anthem. You have cult symbols and signs of obedience rituals. And you need to let the Andrew Napolitano's podcast is entitled Judging for, you know, he's a gay man that avoided 2 civil lawsuits in terms of going to trial. I'm sure he had to write a check for a substantial amount of money. The lawsuits were asking for $10 million. Both. That's 20 million. That Andrew Napolitano sued for $20 million. And of course, everyone had to sign a non-disclosure agreement and agree to keep it a secret. So we don't really know the outcome. We know that Andrew Napolitano's secret was minimized. But of course, the Juxtaposition channel found out because of my sleuthing. I'm a sleuth. Do like and subscribe to my channel. I'm heavily shadow banned, and I'm going against COINTELPRO people such as Andrew Napolitano, Gerald Calente, Lionel, Michael LeBron, Andrew Who else who am I going against? Joe Rogan. Um, what's his name? Alex Jones. I'm going against Glenn Greenwald. I'm going against Lex Friedman. I'm going against Stupider Peters, born on April Fool's Day, 1980. Stupider Peters with his tattooed arms. Uh, that's what I'm going against. Not to mention all the doctors: Dr. Drew, Dr. Ruth, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, to be ignored. To be ignored. Thank you. Bye now.